What's going on, everybody? Early look at week 4 in the NFL. Week 3 ended up pretty good for us overall. We had a really nice Sunday, winning 6 plays, losing 1, 6-1 Sunday, but then lost on Monday Night Football with the Jaguars, which was just pathetic, man. I really like that play, too. I don't know what happened to that team. Buffalo looks unbeatable right now, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Luckily, we hit our touchdown props to kind of limit the damage. So we lost about a unit. We hit Cook, I think it was plus 115, and then we hit Brian Robinson in the other game, which in the other game, I wish I looked more at the Commanders. Sometimes you'll have these games or these spots where you kind of overlook them a little bit, and I totally overlooked Washington in that game. I didn't bet the game besides the touchdown prop for Brian Robinson, but all the data was pointing to Cincy. They're at home, and Washington just came off of a win in week 2 at home. Now they hit the road. Like, everything was telling you Bengals, Bengals, Bengals. But in my mind, I was like, I don't want to lay 7.5 with the Bengals. I'm not a huge fan of their team, so I just laid off the game. But I wish I took a longer look at the Commanders because they had a ton of offensive success. And I knew they'd be able to run, which is why I liked the Brian Robinson touchdown, because I thought they're going to have success on the ground. The Bengals, since losing DJ Reader, they're not good defending the rush. Any team that can run the ball well is going to exploit them. So, but man, I did not expect an outright win. I got to be honest. So, but nonetheless, we head to week 4, and these lines have already started to move, and we're going to go through each game. If you're new here, I'll just go through each game, give you my early thoughts, give you a lot of games. I'll compare what I make the line to what the line is in the market, especially if I see a discrepancy. And we'll just kind of talk about where I'm seeing value here early on in the week. All right, so let's start off with Thursday Night Football. You got the Cowboys visiting the Giants here. Both teams coming off of dramatically different results on Sunday. The Cowboys are laying 4.5 on the road in this game, total set at 45 or 44.5 in some books. And here's what I'll say about this game, and I'll give you the side that I'm leaning, because I am leaning aside on this. Before Sunday, I always like to take a look, guys, Sunday morning. This is a nice little tip. Sunday morning before the games start, take a look at what the lines are for the following week. So week 3 on Sunday morning, I wake up, and after the report sent out to the subs, all my plays are out, my bets are in, I'm ready to go for the day. I go take a look at week 4, and I want to see what the lines are, because I want to catch and like any overreactions or anything that I perceive as kind of crazy if the lines move or anything like that. I looked, and this was Cowboys -7. Okay, that morning you could bet it right there. You could bet Cowboys -7. Then the Giants go out and pull off the upset in Cleveland. We had the under in that game, and I thought they could have success on defense. It turned out that was true. And then the Cowboys lose. Now this is coming from someone, myself, who had a big play on the Ravens. The Ravens were our 3-unit max, our first max of the season. The fourth quarter was very ugly for Baltimore, but they win the game. So after that, after the Giants win and the Cowboys lose, I see this line in real time go from 7 to 6, 5, and now we have 4.5. I think at this point you have clear value on Dallas. Dallas loves to beat up on the NFC East, and they have had great success against the Giants. And no matter what you think about what you saw on Sunday, the Giants are still objectively not a good team. Okay, one of the bottom 5 teams in the NFL. They just happen to match up well against the Browns, and no one's really had an answer for Malik Neighbors so far. But Dallas now gets to watch 3 games worth of footage on him. They get to prep for him as a number 1 threat, because maybe coming into this season or coming into that game with the Browns, you're not really aware that Malik Neighbors is that good. He's a number 1 threat. But now you're very aware of it, and I think the Cowboys will be very focused at trying to limit him or contain him, which is going to be a challenge. But they match up much better in this game than they did against the Ravens, and the Giants match up much worse in this game than they did against the Browns. So that's where I'm coming from here. The Giants' pass rush is solid, and I didn't like that for the Browns. I thought they could disrupt Watson in the pocket, get pressure, but their secondary is bad. The thing is that that Cleveland doesn't have anybody to exploit that. In this game, CeeDee Lamb should have a huge game. All right, Prescott to Lamb should be a big deal in this game. And on the other end, the Giants have a very poor offensive line, even though they have Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors, some decent weapons out there. Singletary is running the ball well, and Daniel Jones looks all right, but they have a bad offensive line. If there's any matchup where the Cowboys pass rush will show up, because we've been waiting for it, it hasn't been great, but they did the same thing in week 1 to Deshaun Watson that the Giants did. If there's any game where they show up, it's this one. A divisional weak opponent, bottom of the barrel team, off of a big upset win as an underdog with a horrible offensive line. This should be the game where Parsons gets a sack. All these guys get in the backfield. They're causing havoc. Jones is running for his life. that's kind of what I'm expecting here. This is not a hammer or a big spot, anything for me like that, but I like the Cowboys minus 4.5. That's how I would play this Thursday night game. And I think from this coming to 7, right, like I said, down to 4.5, you could be at the floor here, and there might be some buyback up as you get closer to game time, so just keep an eye on that. All right, over to Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, the Broncos at the New York Jets. My New York Jets are coming off an impressive win last Thursday night. We'll be on extended rest here. This totals at 38.5, and the line is -7 to New York. This was 8, and it's come down a little bit. But I'm going to tell you the same thing in this game that I just told you in the previous one. The Broncos are coming off of a win as a 6.5-point dog, which we had them on Sunday against the Bucs. The Jets have looked really good. Extra rest. Bo Nix as a rookie on the road against that Tampa Bay defense that is riddled with injuries was one spot. This is completely different. A much better defense that's relatively healthy, a well-rested offense at home, and a long week. Tough spot for the Broncos. Short week with a rookie quarterback. These do not end well usually. And on top of that, the Buccaneers were showing signs of regression through as early as week 1. And then in week 2, that win over the Lions really put them as a high fade candidate because Detroit outgained them by like 200 yards in that game. They just went 1 for 7 in the red zone. They couldn't do anything in the red zone. So Tampa gets kind of, a win is a win, but you got to call it how it is. A little bit of a fluky win. It created value on Denver. Not the case here. The Jets had a very definitive win over the Patriots on Thursday night last week in week 2. Coming into this game, I don't see how I know it's a full touchdown. If I'm going to play anything in this game, I don't have anything on it yet, but I would lean Jets -7. Just the fact that this came down from 8, I make this game 7.5. So if that's my lean -7, but it's not playable for me unless it gets to like 6, then I might play the Jets. But got to lean Jets in this game. I think the matchup really favors them. They can run the ball really well against Denver. Rodgers should have success. Like I said, rookie quarterback on the road, short week. All the trends will tell you that that's a bad spot. And add on to that the fact that they're coming off of a big win as a dog and a blowout win too. By the way, not even close. Got to fade the Broncos. Don't think they can pull that off in 2 straight weeks. So lean Jets -7 in that game. All right, big divisional game between the Vikings and the Packers. Minnesota getting 2.5 on the road with a total of 43.5. The Vikings just might be legit, and that defense might be a force to be reckoned with. One of my plays, my one loser on Sunday was the Texans. I thought they were going to be way more competitive in that game than they were, and the blitz really gave Stroud trouble. And Stroud in his career has been good against the blitz, so there's those exotic looks from Flores seem to be just killing everybody. Another quarterback here today this week that has good numbers against the blitz is Jordan Love. It remains to be seen whether or not anybody can have success against Flores. I saw a tweet. I can't remember who I would like to give it credit, but the person was like, he's quickly approaching boogeyman territory. This is becoming the guy that nobody wants to go up against. But this line is telling you here that Jordan Love should come back, -2.5 at home. Again, the Vikings are 3-0. If there's ever a spot where they're due for some regression, it would be this one on the road in Lambeau, one of the toughest environments in football. I have a small lean to the Packers in this game. I did not play it. If the Packers had lost, by the way, Tennessee was one of the sharpest plays in week 3 against the Packers. They were -3 at home. Malik Willis starting. If the Titans had actually won that game and the Sharps cashed on it, I would have loved the Packers more in this spot. But the way they just blew them out on the road like it was nothing and then come back home now for this game, I don't know. It doesn't feel as strong as it was before, right? So I lean Packers here, but nothing official on the game. All right, here's a game, guys, that I do have something official on. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. The Steelers now laying 2 points on the road here, and the total is set at 40, an even 40. Pittsburgh looked really impressive. 3-0 so far, 3 convincing wins. And the Colts have struggled, honestly, since week 1. They played really well at home against a divisional opponent in the Houston Texans, covered that spread as a 3-point dog at home. But since then, it's been ugly. Lose as a favorite on the road to Green Bay, and then get a win at home against Chicago. But that win was not an inspiring or encouraging win. Anthony Richardson doesn't look great. He throws 1 nice pass for every 10 passes he throws. They just, I know the Bears defense is solid against the rush, so they didn't have a ton of success on the ground, but man, it's not going to get any easier against the Steelers. This is one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. And the thing about Pittsburgh, You know the coaching edge they have with Tomlin. I'd argue they have a quarterback edge in this game and a rushing edge in this game. The Colts have allowed a ton of rushing yards so far this season. They're shaping up to be one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL, them and the Bengals. And I think the Steelers can have success on the ground here. I know the line is like, what, -2? But I make the line -3. It's nothing crazy, but I do make it 3. I personally grabbed this at -1.5 this morning. So I like the Steelers -1.5 here. That's an official play for you guys. But I know some people are going to tout this as a trap game maybe throughout the week. Like, oh, it's a trap, 2-point home dog. It should be bigger. People that generally speak like that are not actually doing the math behind it, not actually power rating each team. And because there's not a lot of parity in the NFL. Like the Steelers are not going to be a 5-point favorite here, and they're setting a trap for you by making them -2, right? The true number here, I have it as 3. I like the Steelers a lot in this spot. I think they match up really well. They can run the ball really well against this Colts, porous Colts defense. And I think they're going to make it really tough on them. Take a look at Steelers road unders too. Under 40 in this game could be a lean. There's like 64% to the under on the road with Tomlin as their coach because their defense just travels so well, right? Defense travels a lot better than offense typically. And I like the Steelers here. So Steelers -1.5 would be, is a play for me in this game. All right. Eagles at Buccaneers. Philly -2.5. Kind of interesting here as a road favorite against the Bucs, who have looked pretty good so far despite last week. Over-under is set at 45. There's going to be some systems here that point you to Tampa. I really like Philly here. I'm considering playing it, guys. I think it's a good revenge spot based on what happened in last year's playoff game where they went there and got blown out in Tampa Bay. And again, I think you have a lot of regression still coming to the Buccaneers after those first 2 games. Look at how Washington looks now after they played Tampa in week 1. And then look at all of the yards that the Lions gained on Tampa in week 2. And now what the Broncos did to them in week 3. This defense is gutted. The team is a little bit overrated based on the fact that they got 2 early wins. One win that they probably shouldn't have gotten as a big underdog. And I think there's more regression coming their way. I really like how the Philly defense played against the Saints. There was a clear sense of motivation there. There was a clear sense of urgency after their bad loss on Monday to the Falcons. This is a team that's one drive away from being 3-0. I really like Philly in this spot, -2.5. And I'm just hoping that maybe we get some market love for Tampa and I can get this line to drop a little bit and then I'd play Philly. All right, next game up is the Rams as a road dog in Chicago, getting 2.5 points against the Bears. Over under set at 41. And listen, I saw this line tick up to 3 earlier today and it went right back down. There was either some sharp movement on this or maybe a release from another service, but this line immediately came down. It was quick from 3 to back to 2.5. So it looks like that's a ceiling here for the Rams. I don't know. This game to me screams just stay away. I want nothing to do with it. I don't know how you lay points with Chicago, and I don't know how you back a Rams team that has this many injuries that just pulled off a miraculous comeback win against the 49ers. If that was a divisional home dog getting a full touchdown, I totally understand. It was almost a play on my card. I ended up passing, but it was very close to being a play. So I got the angle there for the Rams in that game. In this game, now hitting the road, maybe there's a letdown. But one thing is very clear in this matchup. Okay, you have a big quarterback edge and you have a big head coaching edge to the LA Rams. So whatever you want to say about the Bears being favored here, this is kind of saying to you that on a neutral field right now, at the current state of the Rams, the Bears are slightly better, with this line saying at -2.5. I don't think that's true. So I think there is some value on LA. It just depends on the number you get, right? So whether you want to go plus 115, I'm seeing right now on the money line, or if you want to wait and see if this can get back up to 3 and you could snag a 3. But this to me is Rams or pass, but I'm leaning much more towards pass on this game. Maybe you take a look at the under. I know the Rams defense has some injuries, but the Bears have just not looked the part on offense. Caleb Williams has not looked the part. And I don't think them coming back home for this game is going to do much to help them out. It's just, I know he threw for a lot of yards against the Colts. I know that, but it didn't lead to many points. There's just something off about this team. And maybe they get it going this week, but for me, this is Rams or pass. Much more likely to be just a pass. I'm just not too interested on this game. I make the Rams +1 in this game. So I do see a little bit of value on 2.5, but aside from the math, me personally, I just don't like the game. The 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals on the road in Carolina. They're laying 4.5 points, total set at 47.5. Is this an Andy Dalton revenge game? I don't know. Hard not to lean to the Panthers here at +4.5, seeing what the Commanders offense just did to this Bengals defense. That could just honestly be very overrated. This just could be an overrated team, guys. And the Bengals are not far, by the way. You're sitting at 0-3. Your chances of making the playoffs right now are very low. The Bengals are not far from being in catastrophe mode here. If they were to lose this game, maybe a head rolls. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're teetering right now on the edge of your season being completely lost and going into full-blown just blow it up kind of mode. I mean, I'm not obviously Burrow's not going anywhere, but you got a lot of pieces on this team that are just going to be sitting here. If you're sitting at 0-4, 0-5, you're just going to be sitting here for the rest of the year. It's going to be a tough look for Cincinnati. A -4.5 in this game. Again, with Andy Dalton now playing quarterback, you saw what he did last week. I just don't see how you can bet the Bengals here. Laying points on the road. You want to tell me it's a sharp side? I know that there's some 0-3 team systems out there, but they're not nearly as strong as the 0-2. The 0-2, the week 3 is the week where those systems usually crush it. There's other stuff in week 4 that we can look at, but this ain't one of them. I lean Carolina here +4.5. I haven't played anything yet. This 47.5, by the way, is interesting. I think it's high because of what you just saw, right? You just saw the Panthers put up a bunch of points. The Bengals and the Commanders put up a bunch of points. I think it's a little bit too high. My number's coming in at 45.5 in this game, or 45-ish. I lean a little bit to the under. I think this might come down as you get closer to game time. And I gotta lean Panthers here after what I've seen last week. And I'm very, you guys know from watching any of my content, I'm very contrarian with the way I bet. So if a team has a horrible week, I might want to bet them. But there's certain things in the NFL that you can't escape. Like if you have a bad defense, if teams are scoring, if you just cannot defend the pass, if you cannot defend the rush, those are things that are not, unless there's some adjusted or expected metrics that indicate any kind of regression, you're typically not going to improve much on that. And the Bengals right now look very susceptible defensively. So I don't love that against Dalton, who was in there fresh. Yes, he's a vet and he's older and he's not going to move around a lot, but he's in there fresh. He hasn't played a bunch, so he's like ready to go. Facing his former team now that he spent a lot of time with the Bengals. Bad spot for Cincinnati. If they're 0-4, you're teetering on the edge there with the Bengals. Lean to the Panthers +4.5. All right, the Saints are in Atlanta, guys. Big divisional game in the NFC South. New Orleans +1.5 on the road against the Falcons. Total set at 42 here. I have a very clear lead on this game. It might end up being play for me, but I like Atlanta. And I think the Saints, obviously, against Philly had not a reality check, but a really come back down to earth type of game. But I don't think they're done coming back down. I just think they were so way overperforming in week 1 and week 2 that they still have room to fall here a little bit. And I like the Atlanta defense a lot. Like when I picked the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, that was my play on Sunday night. I just was playing mostly the trends there of Mahomes being a small favorite. They're really hard to pass up. It's at the point now where if he's anything -3 or less, I'm taking him. So that was more of a numbers play. But I like this Falcons defense. I like their secondary. I like the pass rush with Simmons and Judon. I think they can give the Saints similar issues to what the Eagles just gave them. And I think they can run the ball on them. They can have success running the ball, which is also what the Eagles did. So I like Atlanta in this spot. And tough loss on Sunday night, but get to stay home, no travel. Give me the Falcons -1.5 as a lean in this game, and it might end up being a play. I would also lean to the under in this game as well. It's sitting at 42. 41, 42 are key numbers here, but I'm kind of projecting like a 20-17, maybe a 20-16, 21-16, that kind of game. I would lean under here, and I would lean to the Falcons at home in this game. All right, the Jaguars +6 on the road in Houston. I did see a 6.5 pop up earlier this morning. It looks like somebody was able to buy or had the stomach to buy on the Jags. I think I'm done betting the Jags for a bit after last night, but my number on this game is 5.5. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a little bit of value on getting the full touchdown there. Total set at 45.5. Houston did not look good against Minnesota, man. I know they were on the road. I know and that's a good defense, and that's turning out to be a very surprising team. But Darnold just shredded them. It's one thing if it's just like you had trouble scoring and it was like a low scoring, loss, a tough loss, and your offense couldn't get it going. But they were getting beat on defense too. I don't know, looking a little susceptible there. The only way I could go in this game is taking the touchdown with Jacksonville, and I'm not willing to do it. So, like per the numbers, I'm just not willing. Per the numbers, that's the only way to bet. But I'm just not willing to do it. So, for me, if this were to get crazy and get to 7 or something like that, maybe I'd fire on the Jags. But it's more of a stay away game for me. I don't want anything to do with it. It is a road divisional dog. I might have a video coming up about that. Those road divisional dogs above 3.5 specifically are very profitable historically. So maybe consider the Jacksonville if you have the stomach to do it. I kind of think after what I saw last night, I kind of think Peterson has lost this team. I don't know. I know they're not going to fire him this early in the season, and I know they're going to keep it going, but if this team is 0-4, 0-5, one of my futures bets was the Jaguars to make the playoffs. I probably can get an insane price on that right now. They do have a very easy end to their schedule, right? They do. So they could rattle off a bunch of wins at the end of the season, but I got to see some life. I got to see some hope that that could happen. There was nothing. There was no positives to take from that game last night. So for me, if this number gets out of hand, maybe consider the Jags, but a hard pass otherwise. Maybe take a look at the under. I think Houston's defense is definitely going to bounce back in this game. They have an easier opponent in terms of the type of offense that the Jaguars run. And the Jags defense, despite getting annihilated last night, I still don't think that's a horrible unit, but they're clearly below average. But 45.5, my number's 44. Maybe take a look at the under in this game. All right, Patriots at the 49ers. This is your first double-digit spread of the season so far, which is crazy to think about. Total sitting at 39.5. You've got injury concerns for the 49ers, despite laying this big number. Obviously, no McCaffrey. And now they're saying Brock Purdy, I guess, I just saw this morning day-to-day with some hip or back soreness or something like that. So maybe keep an eye out for that. To me, this is a very easy, clear 49ers play if he plays. If Purdy's healthy and is going to play, this should be a smash spot for San Francisco. Coming off of a road divisional loss, tough spot where they blew a lead, lost as a favorite. Now you come back home. Brock Purdy at home has been really good. They've been subpar on the road since he's been the starter, but they've been excellent at home, especially covering these larger spreads. And I think I saw somewhere that he's only lost to a couple of guys at home. I think it's just like Burrow and Mahomes. I think that's pretty much it. Or maybe Lamar too with that one game against the Ravens last year. But he's only lost at home to like elite quarterbacks. So coming in here with Jacoby Brissett off of a game where you put up 3 points on the road, not a lot of confidence in this Patriots team. The Patriots in week 3 looked like what I expected them to be from week 1. It just took a few weeks to get there. So maybe the high of the new coach now comes down. Really tough spot here. Big coaching edge, defensive edge, quarterback. There's no advantages for the Patriots in this game. If I had to play this, I would lay -10. My number's 11, by the way, on the game. So I would go -10 on San Francisco. All right, the Washington Commanders coming fresh off of that massive upset win last night as a touchdown underdog. All right, they head to Arizona here. They're catching 3.5 in this game. A dog again, a road dog again. Cardinals -3.5 at home. The total's set at 50.5. I saw this 49 this morning, so it looks like we're getting some over money coming in. I mean, it's hard to say I disagree with that. I know totals that are 50 or more have been getting killed in terms of the over. Like they've all been going under, especially this season and last season. So maybe you want to fade the market move here and go under in this game, but I don't see I don't have a lot of confidence in it if we're going to do it. These are two bad defenses. These are two very explosive offenses with young weapons like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaden Daniels, and Brian Robinson's running the ball really well. James Conner's running the ball really well. Both of these teams get it done on the ground, which is maybe your one angle for taking the under. They're both going to run the ball a lot on each other, but I think it's going to lead to a lot of points, to be honest. So a small lean here to the over, and in a high variance game like this, guys, I'd go with the dog. I like to if there's games with two bad defenses and the offenses are likely to put up points, I like to take the underdog in that spot. Because maybe they get, a fluky play on a turnover or something like that, and it puts them in a short field, they capitalize, just anything like that. Games with that I project to have high variance in terms of their outcome, I like to lean slightly to the dog. But I think the stronger play here would probably be rooting for points and taking the over in this game. It's an indoor game. This game just has points written all over it, offense written all over it. I would lean to the over 50 in this game. All right, Chiefs at the Chargers. Kansas City on the road laying 8.5 points with a 39.5 point total. All right, obviously this number is massively inflated because Justin Herbert will likely not play in this game. I did see this come down earlier this morning to 8. Now it's back at 8.5. So it looks like it's kind of going back and forth there. Listen, the 8.5 kind of jumps out at you because it's pretty obvious that it's a very solid teaser leg piece. Maybe you put this in a teaser. I don't know. Chiefs and the Jets, Chiefs and the Bills, maybe 2.5, Chiefs and the Vikings plus 2.5. You could go that way. I laid off the teasers in week 3 because they just were not. Teaser legs were getting killed in week 1 and week 2. And guess what? I laid off in week 3. They got killed again in week 3. The Bengals, right, were a teaser. The Chargers, the Bengals and the Chargers were the top 2 teaser legs. The Browns, these all got the Buccaneers. They all got annihilated in week 3. So I think until I see this swing back, I'll just take a break from teasers. But Chiefs minus 8.5. Really hard to see how they lose this game without Herbert playing. It's a divisional game, but it's when you're putting Taylor Heineke in there, you're kind of just punting the game away. Chiefs should win this game. They should win it big, but I don't have any interest in laying 8.5 because, like I said earlier about Mahomes minus 3 or less, when you go the other way, it's not great. So he tends to win a lot of close games. I would just stay away from this game unless you're interested in building a teaser. And let's see, just for fun, if I was going to build, if you forced me to build a teaser, I would go Chiefs minus 8.5 down to minus 2.5. And the other one, you know what? Maybe the Rams plus 2.5 up to 8.5. Are you think the Bears are the Bears gonna win by double digits? That might be my teaser leg. Because honestly, if Jordan Love plays, I don't love the Vikings teaser leg as much. So I think you got 2 options here. You go Kansas City with the Jets, minus 7.5 down to minus 1.5, or you go Kansas City with the Rams up to 8.5. That's how I would play the teaser if I was going to play it. All right, next game. Browns on the road against the Raiders. Cleveland is +1, totals 37. This spread is saying, hey, these teams, this is a very close game, and it's basically impossible to pick. It's 50-50, and I agree. I think this spot is just not good for either team, not good to pick on either team because they both just lost as large favorites. The Raiders were a 5 or 6 point favorite. The Browns were a 6 point favorite. They both lost outright. Now the Raiders stay home. That's one benefit for them. Cleveland has to travel for this game. But I just cannot get behind either of these quarterbacks, man. They both stink. I don't like Minshew, and Watson has looked atrocious. I thought coming into the season maybe they could figure it out. A full, long, healthy season of Deshaun Watson. Can he refine? Doesn't have to be what he used to be, but he's got such a good defense that he just has to be serviceable. But he's been below serviceable. So I can't get behind the Browns here at +1. The only way I'd play this game is the under 37, but I think the line's too low. I got it at 30. I have this line at 37.5, so I'm not going to play the 37. But that would be the only way gut that I lean in this game because I just cannot pick a side between the Browns and the Raiders. All right, next up, Sunday Night Football. This is arguably your game of the week right here. You've got the Bills headed to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Buffalo's +2.5. Interesting spot. The total set at 46. The reason why this is interesting to me is because before I watched the Monday Night Football game last night, I would have told you I like Buffalo in this game. And then I watched them blow out the Jaguars the way that they did. And now I don't like them as much anymore. And I know that sounds silly. You're like, what are you talking about, Jeff? But there's a lot of trends. There's a lot of data to suggest fading teams that come off of these big blowout victories, especially when they have to hit the road the next game. All right. And I think despite what happened in the fourth quarter, the Ravens were our max bet, but despite how they kind of nearly collapsed in the fourth, I think the first 3 quarters showed you something. They kind of found themselves, I would say maybe, and a little bit of their identity showed the rough and tough football, running the ball on you, physicality. I like what I saw from them. And I think coming back home, getting that first win and coming back home could be a big boost for this team mentally because they were 0-2, but they had faced 2, solid defenses and they really should have won the second game, came close to being in the first game, maybe going to overtime. So a couple of tough losses, get a win, come back home against an opponent that right now looks unbeatable, right? And these are the spots where, everyone's going to be on Buffalo here. Everybody's going to be on Buffalo. And that kind of makes me a little bit weary. I was expecting a tight, close game with Jacksonville. And if the Jags were to somehow miraculously pull off the upset, I would have liked the Bills a lot more here because the NFL is all about ebbs and flows, all about matchups and situational spots. This situational spot to me seems to favor the Ravens a bit more. My line on the game is exactly where it is, 2.5. So I currently would not touch this game. But if this were to come down, I would look at it. I don't have anything on the total because it's exactly where I said it as well. This is one of those games where I think is lined very properly right now. But just again, to clarify, gut. Because handicapping is science, but it's also some poetry involved to sound corny. There's like an artistic aspect to it, a personal, right, driven aspect to it. I think the Ravens can pull this off, but my numbers say stay away from the game. Lean on the Ravens as of right now on that Sunday Night Football matchup, which should be a huge matchup. Another thing I want to mention about this game. I saw a lot of talk on Twitter about how Allen was killing the man defense that the Jags like to play. They play a lot of man defense under their new defensive coordinator. The Ravens play a lot of zone, so they should have more success. Not saying you're going to stop him. He's great. He's the second best quarterback in the world right now, but should have a little bit more success. And on the other end, the offense is not going to be as inept as what you saw from Jacksonville last night. I mean, even the play calling was absurd in certain spots last night. So you know that's not going to happen from Lamar and company. Henry's going to be able to run. Lamar's going to make plays with his feet. They're going to make some plays on offense. So this will definitely be a much stiffer test for the Bills. And I think the Ravens, based on losing their first two games, could just be a little bit undervalued is what I'll say. But as of right now, numbers-wise, no play. Personally, lean Ravens. All right, there's 2 Monday Night Football games. I hate when they do this. I didn't like it last night, but I'm not going to complain about it. Whatever. So the first game is at 7:30 Eastern. Second game is at 8:15 Eastern. First one, Titans -1 on the road in Miami. I wouldn't touch this game. If you gave me your money and said bet this game, I wouldn't touch it. You want to tell me it's a primetime under? Okay, but it's at 37. This is a very low total. There's one pick six from these two shitty quarterbacks or one scoop and score off a strip sack. I'm not dealing with this game. I want nothing to do with it. The Titans are 0-3. The Dolphins are throwing out either Tim Boyle. If the Dolphins announce that Huntley might be starting, this line will probably flip, and then maybe you get a little bit of a look. But I know the Titans, everyone I know they were the sharpest play of week 3. They got obliterated. And I know they have some things that to be hopeful about, but Levis is making way too many mistakes right now. And to think that he's just going to go on the road and shore all that up, I'm not buying it. Complete pass for me. If anything, the Dolphins start Huntley, and I may look at them, but this game is a complete pass from two teams that are very close to just completely losing their seasons like altogether. So the second game, though, is one that I am interested in. The Seahawks are on the road against the Lions. Seattle +4 is the line. Total set at 47. I am strongly leaning, haven't played it yet, to the Lions in this game. And I really like the way they looked against Arizona. I know they only put up 20 points, but here's the thing. They're getting tons of opportunities. The game against the Bucs, they only put up 16 points, but they got 7 red zone trips where they scored once, okay, out of those 7. They're getting opportunities. They're getting into the red zone right now at the highest frequency in the NFL. So this offense is moving. They're moving on the ground. They're playing very good defense. So the Cardinals just put up a ton of points against the Rams. They were stifled by the Lions defense. Lions defense is excellent. The Seahawks have not played anybody good yet. Anybody. This is going to be their biggest test by far. And I'm strong. This was 4.5. It came down. If I get a 3.5 or miraculously a 3, I don't think we're going to see a 3. But if we did, I'd be all over Detroit in the spot. I think this is a great spot for them. You know the stats about Jared Goff indoors covering spreads, at home covering spreads. Great spot for the Lions against a 3-0 Seahawks team that's overrated, hasn't played anybody good. The wins over the Patriots and the Dolphins, and it's just, to me, this is a smash spot on Detroit if this line can get to where I want it to be, which is 3.5. Right now it's at 4. I probably honestly would still play it at 4. But strongly into the lines in this game. All right, that wraps it up, guys, for week 4. Down in the description, you will find 2 links. One is a coupon code for 50% off of a month, and the other one is a link for 20% off of this full long season pass. Our season pass is the cheapest one out there. It's like, I think it was $3.99 right now. You've got guys charging thousands of dollars for you to tail their NFL plays for the season. And like I said, I gave you guys a lot of leans on each of these games. But remember, the one official play, if you forgot, the one official play that I gave you was the Steelers -1.5. I am on that. Already have put in my bet. So good luck if you tail that, and I'll be back next week. Let's get it.